Welcome to Labor's View. This show is brought to you by the very, very hardworking and dedicated employees of the Essex County Division of Welfare. And they are represented by a union. That union is the Communication Workers of America, Local 1081. I'm David Weiner, president of the union and host of Labor's View. Each month we bring you, or attempt to bring you, very interesting shows that we hope, and I believe we show, that they appeal to not just one type of audience at all. Once they realize, those that are watching, that the subject matter really touches upon everyone in one way or another. So, our guest, I believe for the third time, two?
I think
Yeah,
so.
third time, is the one and only Honorable Louis, a.k.a. his last name, Shockley. Brother Shockley, thank you for doing the show again.
Anytime.
And this man is a miracle of Broad Street, or I'll pick some big avenue, whatever you have. What's your favorite street in Newark?
My favorite street in Newark, probably where I was raised, where I did a significant part of my upbringing, was Littleton Avenue, Springfield Avenue, and 16th Ave.
Yeah, when I think of mine, as I told you, it was the Seth Boyden Projects.
Yep.
I was a little kid between the ages like 2 and 3 to 7, and some really cool. We didn't have any money, but we didn't know that.
Yep.
You know,
right.
it was a cool place, and didn't have the crime issues that came along some 40 years later, unfortunately. And now that's all boarded up and they're ready to take it down.
Yep. Hopefully we can stop that. You know, we're still fighting the fight with, because as you well know, you live there. I have family members that live there. That's some of the most unique and I would say best construction probably come down in our lifetime, especially in the light of these cookie projects now that they're putting up with the pressed wood and all that. And if we're going to talk environmentally and for the preservation of energy, I mean, you can't ask for a better structure than that. I mean, when those bricks get hot, as you well know, that heat stays in there. And then in the summer months, just block out the sunlight out of your windows, and you could comfortably be in there with a fan, you know, with an oscillating fan.
But, Shock, you know, the real problem came to be, well, a couple of things. One, the housing authority wanted to get out of business of being the housing authority. Mm-hmm. They wanted to get into the business of being landlords. So, and their real big move was putting together the deal for the arena,
Yep.
right? And there's been various degrees of questioning whether that was a totally positive move for the city or not. There have been battles between the Nets owner and the mayor. Lately they kissed and made up, right?
Yep, they kissed and made up. Well, because basically, again, well, as you well know, this is just not Newark Housing Authority, but housing authorities all over. The actual real problem comes from HUD.
Right.
HUD and on the federal level want to get out of the rental business altogether. But you're right, it really came to a head with the arena. And now with the Nets gone.
That's the Prudential Arena.
Yep, the Prudential Arena.
Right.
And now with the Nets gone, you have somebody, I hear there's a move now for someone to try to purchase the Devils. So we don't know where we're going to stand with there, because if the guy purchases them, he has the right to move them out of there after the contract. And we'll wind up with what happened down at the Eagles Bears baseball stadium.
What did happen?
Well, basically, what we got going on down there, I mean, prime location, down by Lackawanna train station.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
It was somebody's bright idea that if you build it, they would come.
Right.
And they did for a while, but you got to remember, kids are not what they used to be. Baseball is not that pastime in the cities like it used to be when we played in the lots and we played stickball on the streets.
The rubber balls, the hard rubber balls. Yeah.
You know, sometimes we're a penny wise and a pound foolish. And I just couldn't see why we built that structure without a dome on it. You have to make this thing last year round. You know, because it's a nice sized ballpark.
Yeah.
And you can attract other venues in there.
It's a beautiful little park.
You know, they tried the Gospel Fest.
They've tried everything.
They tried everything, you know, and the Gospel Fest was okay for a minute, but again, it's like everything else, it fades. But a good concert in there, you know, some things for the kids, you know, but if it's sitting there all winter long with nothing to do, you're not making revenue. I just don't understand what we're doing. I don't believe that anybody, any city, any state should be paying for arenas. These owners are making more than enough money with what they're paying these athletes to build their own stadiums.
Actually, they want even more. You had the lockout in the hockey arena for months. They didn't start until what, December? So I think they got 3/4 of a year actually in, and that's for which they weren't paid. It's funny that the people, I don't know if people realize this, but the city of Newark and the county of Essex were partners on Bear Stadium. I remember when it was being built and how Sharp James, then the mayor, and I don't know if Joe D was the county, Joe D himself was the county executive when they started that or not.
I think he was.
I thought he was a field board president, but I don't know, because he was field board president then, but he's been in there, he's been over 8 years. He's going for, right, it's almost 12, because he's going for re-election, I think, in 14.
Yeah.
But one smart thing they did build the parking deck.
Yep.
So they've been able to rent that out to people in the area that have nothing to do with the arena. I know because we actually have 40 or 50 people from the Division of Welfare, who the landlord who owns the building, 18 Rector Street, Miles Berger, who's the same landlord who owns the building we're in now, 60 Park Place, which is right down the street for anybody logistically, from 18 Rector Street and a little further down the road to the stadium. That, by the way, Miles is I'm going to say this on the record, I don't know if I said it before, he's a really good landlord. You've been to 50 South Clinton Street, for those of you watching, is a county-owned building. And this is a building that used to be owned by the United Hospitals before they went under. And the county bought them out. And my then titular peer, the Supervisors Union president, Nick Nicolette, and I did all we could to try to talk them out of building that, not building, but to go into that building. Because it's a fire trap, and it's disgustingly dangerous. So we've done demonstrations. The exits are too small, you know that. They're too small for. And then one thing that epitomized it, on a hard, one day it rained and rained like Noah's Ark was going to be come down the street, and up freeway, and the lights go off. Okay, but the backup generator, no one had really checked it on the roof. That didn't work. So you have people walking in total darkness. So there's no backup lights, no floor lights, nothing. So unless you had a lighter or a flashlight, you were just basically a 5-story building, men, women, and children, and some disabled with wheelchairs and everything, had to walk down 5 flights of stairs, or 4, or 3, or 2, or 1. Fortunately, the people I represent were primarily on the first floor, so they got their behinds out there before everybody else did. But it's not a well-made. It's a I hate to say it, but it really is a tragedy waiting to happen. And I hope it never does. I hope my prediction doesn't come true.
Well, with a lot of buildings that we have in the city of Newark, we've been letting landlords for too long not maintain their buildings. They're just interested in collecting rent, and they don't care. I mean, I was in the building at 50 South Clinton when the lights did go out. And it was a mess trying to walk down the stairs. And it was just, I mean, it was just a mess. I mean, first of all, nobody with a wheelchair can get out.
Right.
That's the first thing. You have women who had their kids there who were in strollers. So I helped 1 or 2 women down, with their babies, but the strollers had to be left behind.
Right.
Now we're standing outside in the cold, waiting for somebody to respond from the fire and the police, and it was just total chaos.
And the county.
In the county, but there was no, well, you got county officers in the building, but I'm gonna tell you,
5 cops.
I'm gonna tell you quite honestly, none of them came upstairs.
Really?
I mean, none of them were on the stairs with a flashlight trying to direct people.
I didn't know
They were
that.
all on the first floor near the exit, the front and the back exit. Just telling people, come this way, come this way, come this way. And I just thought that was real surprising.
You would have thought that they have about, I think, at least 5 armed sheriff's officers.
5 on the main floor, but
floor.
sometimes you can have 3 or 4 upstairs, depending on what's going on and what guys are assigned. But there's normally 5 on the ground level floor.
But you know what the deal is? But people don't understand that, okay, that building has 5 floors, And it services, at its peak, it'll service like 3,000 people per week go in and out of that building. I know because I got an OPA request and got the logs, Open Public Records Act. Now, this building, 18 Rector Street, has more people in it and more people visit. It's 9 floors. And now, when they're going to move the food stamp and the Newark GA clients into the 4th floor sometime in the spring, that we got everything. We got the whole building, okay? But we have tight security for coming in. In fact, it was the union, our union, it was I actually, who pushed for years, believe it or not, for years to get them to put magnetometers and x-ray machines in both buildings because they didn't have them.
Right.
And what people don't realize is, here's an old story, but I think it was 1990, Sheikh Omar, the blind sheikh, with the Christmas hat on, people don't know that he was later convicted and sent to jail for conspiring about the first blast of the World Trade Center, which killed 6 people, injured several others. It was in the basement, right?
Basement. They tried to take out the garage support.
Right. But Sheikh actually was in our building because at that time, Social Security, I'm sorry, not Social Security, immigration was located there, immigration court. So that's what he was there for. And we have then and we have now the 1st and 2nd floors. So I went into this one office where you could look directly onto the crowd of his guys backing him up. And I noticed this one guy was redheaded, which is, there were recessive genes in all races. So, somewhere a redhead got into a Muslim pool. And sure enough, 3 years later, when they got convicted of trying to take down the World Trade Center, there was one of the. I said, "There's the guy with the red hair." Yeah. So it's just strange businesses. Now, tell me, you got a lot of things on your plate. Yeah. Give me some stuff that you're up to now.
Well, last week, actually in February, met with the all the legal aids for the state of New Jersey with the president, Connie Pasquale. Had an excellent meeting. We are trying now to identify apartment buildings that may be losing HUD subsidies, Section 8, and the RAP program and so forth. Trying to identify these buildings so people are not losing their Section 8. We've been, with the help of Connie Pasquale, ICC, Nancy Zag, Ironbound Community Corp, Mr. Good and myself, we have been able right now, with DCA's help,
Department of Community Affairs.
Department of Community Affairs down in New Jersey, because Newark Housing Authority were ending the vouchers as of this month, the 31st of March. So these people would have been moved out of the building with nowhere to go.
But you have, the Housing Authority has Section 8 vouchers, but then you have a separate entity where, and those are buildings owned by the Housing Authority, but then you have buildings that are owned by private people. Who accept Section 8, because the person with a Section 8 voucher, if they're working, they pay a certain percentage of their pay, and the rest is paid for by HUD.
By Housing Authority, HUD, or in this case, it would be the state, DCA, Department of Community Affairs.
They have their own vouchers.
Right, they have their own vouchers.
There's 3 forms of vouchers. I gotta digress on this DCA thing. The guy who's running now, and by the way, Connie's not the president of LSNJ. That's Dean Miller.
That's Dean Miller, right?
He's his assistant. And the other guy, the other attorney who was, God bless his soul, was Harris David. He's the one who handled the lawsuit for us for those 21 years. And then a couple years later, he got cancer, and then he was not with us anymore. But I loved him. He would dress for court like I would. I mean, all disheveled, and he had suits from like 1970s with a big tie and stuff because he just didn't care. He cared about taking care of business. And his office was as neat as my basement is. But so they took our name, and then, which is fine, it's cool. It's still some of the same people. Nancy, her husband, who works for a housing group, Arnold, works out of Trenton. But I assume he commutes every day to be with his wife and his child. They live down Neck, right?
Yep.
In the Ironbound section. So so you're fighting to try to keep the Housing Authority.
No, the Housing Authority is out.
So you're trying to keep, like I thought, you're trying to keep HUD
No, HUD is out. These are coming from state. This is coming from DCA, Department of Community Affairs.
HUD's
See,
out.
HUD is out. Newark Housing Authority's out. That's what I'm saying. People don't realize you have Carmel Towers, which again, Newark HUD Tenant Coalition, Frank Hutchinson's old group,
God
Nancy
bless his
Zach,
soul.
myself. We got to start the New York Times to actually take a look at that building. See, because what's happening is, as I keep telling folks, gentrification has come to this city, just like it's spreading around all over the country. I
Right.
talked to family in Cleveland, and Cincinnati, and Atlanta, and all these places.
Explain gentrification.
Gentrification is when mostly Europeans who left the cities because of what they call white flight. And they left the cities for the host of reasons, crime, or
Back in the 60s, generally.
back in the 60s when we started developing the suburb model, and some of the corporations started moving to the suburbs.
Right.
But they've since found out that that's a failed experiment because of the floods, and they didn't do the piping and the sewage to specifications, in conjunction with the growth that they were trying to put out there in the suburbs. So what happens when they saw that starting to collapse, and now with the innovation of technology and with your fiber optics and everything, and now they're rethinking this whole plan of going out, because now they're getting up in age. They don't want to have to do that 2 and 3 and 4 hour commute.
Why are you looking at me when you say that?
Hey,
You know I do 2 hours a day, and I am
I
old,
know,
yeah.
and it's rough. You know
It
what I'm
is
saying?
rough, man.
It is rough. I mean, especially if you got little ones.
I got no
Because
little ones,
I'm just saying, all your kids are grown, thank God. But if you have little ones, you might not, you can't see them off in the morning like you want to,
Right.
because you got to leave at 4 or 5 to catch that train or to try to beat that traffic. Or when you get off from work, you're getting home so late, you might just have enough time to tuck them in, watch a little
Right.
TV,
So
go
you
over
miss
their
the
homework
homework,
with them,
yeah,
and stuff like that. So what it is, we saw it in Harlem. So what it is that the cities have become real appealing again because the infrastructure. You don't see, like, Newark is unique, and I tell people this all the time. You cannot name one, in the last 10 years, a major collapse of a water pipe in the downtown area and in some of our communities, because the construction was just done so great. It was just so great. I mean, we have to do some fixes here and there, but if you look at Jersey City, who's constantly breaking water mains, if you look at Camden and Trenton, Newark has been blessed in that. So with that being in mind, you see Corey and his cohorts on the council
The
have
acronym
been,
for Cory Booker is the
Mayor
of the city,
Hollywood,
right? That's Mayor.
and
Used to
we
be
call
city
him Mayor
mayor.
Hollywood.
Okay.
But what's happening is we're seeing public housing under attack. We've lost 300 units. 3,000 units.
Oh, that's
Okay?
relatively. It's more than that.
Right.
But
But I mean,
relatively
3,000 out
recently,
of the public, out of Little Briggs, Baxter Terrace, and Seth Boyding. Just those alone.
Yeah. Then let's go back to
Right.
Stella Wright.
Right.
And
That's what I'm saying.
Hayes.
Stella, you
Oh,
got the apartment building where he lived at on Martin Luther King, which they tore down. That was another 1,500 units. And I'm all in agreement with mixed income use, because, again, the projects get a bad rap because, as you well know, people who lived in public housing worked. The model fell apart once people moved out. My mother, your parents, and other people.
Because
Once we
they got
moved
the
out,
means to move to
right,
to a
we
house.
saved money,
something
we
better, right.
bought a house, we moved out, we bettered ourselves. And somebody in Washington, and it trickled down, and they said, well, we have all these other poor people who have no skills, no training. Let's just pile all these welfare people up in these hubs of communities, and that's not good for anybody.
Right.
I mean, you need to see somebody going to a job every morning. You need to have
Other
good
than
people
dealing on the
around.
corner.
Yeah, right. Dealing or drinking or just getting high and being, because in our communities we took care of each other.
Right.
If your mom saw me doing something, she not only would tell my mother, she had permission to beat me,
Right.
and to punish me. And we don't have that family unit. And I
No,
tell
we
people
have,
this all the
we
time.
have diapers is what we have.
We have diapers, and I tell people that too. I mean, I think diapers is actually a joke. I mean, my mother used to always say, I beat them because I love them. You get paid to beat them. So what's the difference? You know what I'm saying? You got somebody who's getting money. I mean, we got to realize the abuse that goes on in jail, the abuse that goes on in foster care. But for somebody to spank somebody on their hiney, Okay, I mean, is that really? I mean,
It's
to take
a
somebody.
debate for another day. But
Yep.
since I occasionally represent divorce workers, it does get into some serious issues, though. I mean, when you get
Oh, sure.
into deaths of children,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
then
without a doubt.
then you get some.
Look, punching, kicking, hitting a kid, that's all to me outside of the realm of discipline. But to put some kid over your knee, to give him a couple of whacks and let him go. I mean, do we have problems? Yes. I applaud you for your representation of all your workers. You know, my cousin was a diapers worker. Again, we keep piling so much stuff on you guys. You know, you guys are the priest, the father confessor, the police officer, the parole officer, healthcare,
education.
You can't do it all. We send kids to school to get educated, not to learn how to respect people. You should already be getting that from home. But if you're not, somebody has to step in. But a diapers worker has what? Average 150, 300 clients?
No. They changed that greatly. It depends on the unit that you're in. But an average diapers worker has about 15 to 20 cases. But they used to have 150 cases. But there are other, it depends on what unit you're in and what functions you perform. Because, I don't want to digress too much to diapers, but the actual field working diapers person, I mean, they're not just reacting to complaints.
No.
They'll go out and regularly check up on families that have had issues before, and when they do have problems, they drive those kids and or their parents to hospitals, to doctor visits, wellness visits. They try to do everything they can to keep the family intact if the family atmosphere allows that.
But as you well know, I mean, they might be trying to scale the numbers back, but again,
the only reason they're doing it.
But I'm just saying, though, let's take a big city like Newark.
Right.
Let's take these big urban cities. You know, first you have a problem because not a lot of people want to go in that profession because of what happened in the past. You know, good people were blamed for stuff that was totally out of their control.
Right.
Because there's no way you can make 100 home visits in a month. You'd have to be working basically almost 24 hours a day with no sleep.
And not too much when you're there. Hi,
right.
see you.
Exactly.
I'm out of
See
here.
how you walk around, make sure the house is clean, and then you're out.
Right.
And as soon as you leave, the kid's getting strangled. Then when something happens, everybody starts passing a buck. And you know how they do it in the military. The upper lanes get nothing. It's always the guys at the bottom.
Same thing.
You know.
Actually, divers now called DCF. After they got sued, they changed their name to But a rose like any other rose smells the same, right?
Smells the same. Exactly the same.
You're going somewhere tonight.
Basically, we're going down. People like yourself, I know you're busy tonight and you got a lot of stuff on your plate. But what we've been doing is just meeting with a lot of union officials, lay people, church people, and just trying to bring everybody together because there's a lot of work to be done. We have to, I really believe in all politics is local. I mean, I'm happy we got Obama in the White House, but am I happy with his performance? No. So am I happy what's going on the state level?
Totally happy
no.
with it.
Not totally happy. I mean,
happy with some of it.
No, I mean, there's some things that we just need to do more of and do better. I mean, for whatever reason, we can't get the Republicans to see, and some Democrats, as you know, I'm an independent and have been for a long time. Mm-hmm. We can't get people to see that you cannot, Europe is a perfect example, you cannot cut your way out of a deficit.
Through austerity.
You just can't.
Right.
I mean, we have to grow our way out of this economy. The more people we can put back to work, a lot of these debt problems and all this stuff is going to go away.
It always amazes me. I mean, you saw, I won't go way back into when Jerry was a kid, with Grover Cleveland and people like that. But I mean,
nice.
You've got Roosevelt, and there's all kinds of theories on that. But basically, we spent our way. Plus, the war didn't hurt because it put people to work, unfortunately and perversely. Although the same thing didn't happen with Nam.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Same thing didn't happen, and the same thing hasn't happened with the two unpaid for wars that Bush started in Afghanistan and Iraq. But you mentioned Charles Hall is the head up, and he's the president of a union that represents whom?
He represents supermarket workers. Mm-hmm. He's got those guys unionized. That's your extras, your C-Towns, your Food Depot, And he's done a good job for them.
He's done a great job.
As
Charlie's a
far
good
as
man. I've known him
representing
a long
them
time.
and helping, because again, you know, again, as we talked before, all it takes is 3 bad union workers, and you're ready to condemn all unions.
Hey, I represent, my primary representation is for welfare workers in the County of Essex, the largest welfare agency in the state of New Jersey and about the 10th largest in the nation. And I'm out there, you know, I'm on the board of the United Way for the last 20 years, right over there in the Newark YMCA for the last 20 years or so. And all these, I used to be Kids in Business, and the major one that I'm very much interested in now is the Anti-Poverty Network, they meet at LSNJ, which is Legal Service in New Jersey, for Steve's edification. Legal Service in New Jersey, and Dee Miller is their executive director. And, we meet there, and you have a bunch of people from different agencies that are social services. You have a Lutheran. Most of the time, in all fairness, and though some of them will see this, I sometimes think they're spinning their wheels because they concentrate on areas of poverty that just practically are not going to get done with now. Now, maybe if the theory is you chip away and chip away, eventually you get somewhere, that's fine. That makes sense. But I also think you have to do things concurrently that are of now, that'll have some direct.
You're right. I mean, we talk about that all the time, you and I. And this is what I talk to a lot of union people and a lot of lay people about. We keep, for some reason, trying to reinvent the wheel instead of just using the wheel we have. And like I said,
it's called insanity, doing the same thing over and over and getting the same results.
And I think you're right. They see themselves as chipping away at that rock, and sometimes the best thing to do is, you know, this is not, you know, the Flintstones anymore, you know. Get a jackhammer.
Yabba
you know what I'm
dabba
saying?
Yabba dabba
Get a jackhammer
right.
and really get busy with that thing. Sometimes a hammer and chisel won't do it.
Right.
You know, and we're just not developing the right skills. We're not putting our money in the right places. I mean, you know, I was just talking to some people over at the Workforce Investment Board here in Newark.
Actually, we had our WIB meeting this morning, yeah.
And they're talking about now, I'm getting a lot of complaints from guys that they stopped CDL training. Now,
commercial driver license.
Right, commercial driver license. Right. So their contention is it's because people are not using them. Well, I know a lot of guys who've got those CDLs and they're out working now. You know, now could it be that maybe they're displacing because they work a little cheaper, you know? Are they displacing other workers from down South Jersey, from Jersey City and all that? Is that the problem? But again, we just can't cut off all avenues to people and then say, well, get a job or survive or do whatever it is you need to do.
When the jobs are not there.
When the jobs are not
there. We got a half a minute. I'm going to give you my theory. My theory has always been, not always been, but for years with poverty, is, for example, all the billions we spent in Iraq, right, which is a totally unnecessary war. If we had taken that money and given it to, you want to pay money to these businesses to come into town. Look at Revell. They gave them millions of dollars to go into Atlantic City,
That's
and
right.
they're going there. They're Chapter 11.
They're
going
under Chapter 11.
Or they give it to other ones, and then they split
That's
soon as they can, right? And they gave them millions of dollars to stay here. Well, my theory is that you subsidize companies that are going to hire people in the inner cities to make things, to take the skill sets that God naturally gave them. They may not have gotten in school, okay, but they're naturally intelligent people, and use those skill sets and make things, and if we have to, sell them to ourselves as well. And this way you develop an economy that starts spending money, and then the social fabric starts to heal, and there's no need to deal drugs on the corner because you have viable jobs. You serve as an example. I even think we should put the daycare centers on the job sites so the parents don't have to worry about daycare.
Exactly.
Well, Shockley, believe it or not, our time's up. And you're going to have plenty of time. No, thank you. You're going to have plenty of time to get to your next gig, which is what, 6?
Yep, 6
o'clock. So thank you once again for coming.
Thank you so much. Always a pleasure.
Thank you for joining us on Labor's View. I'm David Weiner. Hope to see you on future shows.